Hello all, it's Brian for The Peerless Gamer. Welcome to episode 17, where, if you remember where we ended up the last time on our little adventure here, James and Slake and Dr. Ozric, along with Zinnia, the hologram representing the anomaly that is the black hole around that Neoma Station is orbiting, have made a desperate escape of the Colossus, which is a corporate-owned ship that was supposed to take Dr. Ozric and the Wild Deliverance and James to a conference on Jaffa 2. But Zinnia has suggested that maybe there's some ulterior motives based on some communications that Zinnia has intercepted between principals on Neoma Station and the captain of the Colossus. Through a series of better than average rolls, not initially, but we got better. They've made their way out of the ship, and episode 17 will drop right in here. James is required to ask questions about, there's all ships in distress. There's an unwritten rule by the spacers that you will not bypass a ship that is in distress. And James will ask a question here that automatically, in my head, I realize James would be stupid to ask that question, but I realize maybe he was covering his ass. So you'll hear that and you'll see a little icon where it's like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have said that. But then it's like, okay, yeah, it's just one of those, memory muscle things where, you see something, you say something, or what have you. So episode 17, we're going to start right now. We're going to drop right into where James asks that question. So hope you enjoy. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, thanks, bye. The last thing he says to Control is, hey, Colossus Control, we're going to make our way back to Neoma Station. Would you like us to help tow you or something like that? And the minute he says that, he's like, oh, damn, why did I ask that? Colossus Control says, would Colossus Control ask for the tow, or do they think they have it under control? I think I'm going to go 50-50 on this. Do they have it under control? Lower than 50. They do not have it under control. So they're going to say, we think we have it under control, but we would like a tow. We've already sent out a distress call, as you heard, and there's another ship responding. And he says, so James, because there's a code, right, that you have to use, in space. You're not supposed to, the code is like, if you see somebody in trouble, you're supposed to stop and help. That kind of thing. That's kind of one of those unwritten lore things that, can get you into trouble if you don't at least stop to render assistance. So he said, well, we'll get out to where, we can tow you, and we'll start making our way back to the station, but you'll need to kill your engines. And Colossus Control, it's about 10 seconds, and he doesn't hear anything. Maybe there's still malfunctions going on. Maybe there's still things that they can't. Maybe she's busy. Maybe Colossus Control is still busy. That kind of thing. Or maybe there's something else going on. So James is able to make it out of the ship. So I'm going to say that was a successful escape of the successful escape of the ship. So I'm going to call that progress. The only part we have left is we've got to get to Zinnia, which is the area, the anomaly that is the black hole. So we've got 2 more boxes to make it to that point. James is going to wonder, do I actually want to stop and help them? Given that he knows that he was trying to escape. Actually, you know what? Let's retcon that a little bit. James is going to get the fuck out of here. If there's any kind of charges from not rendering assistance, he's just going to have to deal with those things and hope that that goes. So he's going to start making his way out, because what he's hoping is he'll get far enough away before the Colossus can fix whatever issues they have, that he can outrun them, or at least get away from them and whatever other ship they called, because he doesn't know. He heard the Butterfeld is coming in, but he doesn't know where they are. Where is the Butterfeld? Are they within sensor range? Where are they located? Okay, I'm going to say whatever 0 to 100, right? 1 to 100 is the distance away they are from the Wild Deliverance and the Colossus at this time. So 0, closer to 0 would be better. 60, 60, 60. Okay, so they are not close, which is interesting, right? Presumably, they were near Neoma Station, or on the other side, or somewhere in that area of the anomaly, or Neoma Station. So they may not be able to get there before the Deliverance makes its escape. And so we'll keep that in mind. So they are a distance of 60 away out of 100. Out of 100. So it's quite a distance away. I would have said, whatever 100 is going to be like, maybe they're coming from the other direction, that kind of thing. So the idea is, though, they're going to be accelerating towards this direction. Maybe they were not given any kind of, radio silence kind of deal. So we're going to... So James is going to ask Zinnia, we need as direct a course and as close a course as we can get, or as direct a course as we can get. You need to tell us how we can safely get to you. And Zinnia is like calculating. And you see Zinnia kind of stop for a second. And Zinnia pops back up and says, I can chart us a less perilous course. Hopefully, we can, that you can pilot that won't cause you any issues. But it may be picked up by Neoma's sensors or by this other ship. James says, I don't think we have much choice now. I think we need to go. So feed the coordinates to the navigational computer so that way we can go. And Zinnia says it will require some potential course corrections, depending. I control, I control the gravity in the area, but I don't control the things that are orbiting it, right? So I can change the gravity, or I can modify things slightly, but there may still be things in the way or things you'll have to avoid. And James says, I understand. Just get us there so we can start talking about whatever phase 2 is. Is there a sensor sweep? Let's gather some information. I want to find out if there's anything in the area. Do a sensor sweep, see if the ship is here, where the ship is. Maybe we can ascertain how much damage or how long it might take the Colossus to repair itself. So let's go ahead and roll. I'm going to roll gather information. And that's wits. So we need... Wits is a 2. All right, so we need... so it's a 5. So as our commenter has mentioned, on a hit where the tie is that we got a weak hit, new insight. So the only ships that we see in the area currently and within sensor sweep is the Deliverance and the Colossus, and we are moving away from them. We are, going on that 0 to 100 range, I'd say we're at 10, right? And so they're, we don't know how far away the Butterfeld is. The 60 that I rolled earlier is going to be for narrative purposes. So let's say the Butterfeld can move at a number of 10 per, whatever we consider. So it would be like this tension clock down here. So let's say, this is this circle here was 10, 25, or was it out of 60? So let's say to get them within range of us would be 50. So we've got like 2 more. So once we fill this up, it'll be done. Which should have been how I probably should have used this in the first place, in hindsight. So, all right. So we're going to say in the time that we've done the sensor scan and what have you, and we're making our way towards the ship. So, they're moving towards us. We're moving towards them because they're coming from the anomaly. We're moving away from Colossus and heading towards the anomaly. So the distance, if one train leaves from Boston and another train leaves from LA, something, when will they meet in the right direction? It's very similar to that. So I don't have the math in my brain for that. So we'll say that half we're there. So they're like 30 or something, but we're also 30 away from the Colossus. And okay, so when Zinnia gave us the navigational computer, we're going to roll D100 and we're going to see how far we are from Zinnia. We are 74. Okay. I should have rolled this before, so I'm going to say we are going to subtract 20 from that. So we're 54 away that we know of, according to, navigational computers, you've got 5 miles, so we've gone a mile of that 5 or something like that. So we're 54 somethings away from where the end point that Zinnia had mentioned is. So to end. So, all right. Are we going as fast as we can? I don't think we told Slick to turn the other engine back on, or to, stop all pretense that we're injured. What might we say? Say we will. So the complicating of the quest is that we are quite a ways away from the system. The other thing that complicates, I think what we're going to complicate the quest is that we're the only ships in the area, but from what we can tell from the Colossus, they're starting to make their turn. We haven't received any communications from them since we've left the ship. Arlie, can you tell me, I think James would ask Arlie, based on the sensor data, what's the assessment there? Have they fixed their issue and they're pursuing, or are they just trying to make their way back to Neoma Station? I think it would depend on if, they've cleaned up the mess, or if they've got navigational control back, or if they've had any kind of issues there. So I would say that Arlie's going to know 25 or less, 35 or less, 35 or less. Okay, so it's a 48. So Arlie says, based on the information we have and what limited information we have from the sensors, because we do have some information, but something complicates the quest. So it could be them making their, we don't know what malfunctions were happening on the ship to the full extent. They could just be trying to turn around and head back to Neoma Station. That seems like the most likely observation that I can give you, James. So James says, does James want to make it look like they're not injured anymore? Does James want to keep the bluff up? I'd say during this time we've gone another, say, 10. So we're probably, I would say Neoma Station is probably 10 away from the anomaly. We'll go that way, anomaly. Probably 5 from the anomaly. I don't know what the 5 units are. It could be 5 billion miles. It could be 5 million miles. It could be 5 miles. It's 5 of something, and ideally, you would want to be some safe distance away from whatever they consider to be a black hole. So there's a safe distance plus some. So I would say if the safe distance was 3, then maybe 5 was the saferest distance. So I'd say we've gone another 5 or 10 during this time. So I'm going to say 10. So I'd say we're down to 44 to get to the end point for the anomaly. And in this case, Butterfeld. Are we heading directly back to Neoma Station? I think that's the other thing we want to know. Because I think all this is going to factor into what James is going to do. If we're heading back in the same direction as Neoma Station, then it might make sense to keep up appearances that were damaged or, you know, not completely operable. If we're not heading towards Neoma Station, it might make sense to go like max burn to, you know, wherever we were. Keeping in mind that we did cause some damage to the ship. So if we did do the max burn bit, it might actually cause some damage to the ship or cause a complication later on. So are we heading towards Neoma Station? Is the plot course going to Neoma Station or through Neoma Station to the anomaly? And I would say let's just go 50-50. It could very well not be. It's a circle. Yeah, I'm going to go 50-50. But I mean, it's like in a circle, you know, that would mean that we'd have to be almost completely lined up. So I would say, you know, there may be some rotation in that time. I'm going to say 50-50 just for shiz and giggles. So 50 or lower is good. 38. Okay. So, wait a minute. Did I? 50 or lower was going to Neoma Station. So, this does take us back near Neoma Station. Ideally, this is also going to take us back near Butterfeld. So I would say that James is... Would James keep up appearances? I think it's going to depend on what the Colossus is going to do next. So I think James is going to continue making his way back that direction. He's going to act like he's disabled, so there may be, you know, he may be flying some kind of, you know, janky little bit. He might still be trying to do stealth, deception, or trickery. So I'm going to continue to secure an advantage. Gain ground. Gain ground. I think we're going to gain some ground here. So gaining ground. You're in control, so we're still in control somewhat. We take action in a fight to continue our reinforcement and head towards an objective. So we're fleeing, pursuing, or maneuvering. So there we go. We're going to say edge. We're going to roll some edge. And we're going to see, oh, that's our lowest, one of our lowest scores. So we're going to see, we're going to continue fleeing, but we're going to act like we're not fleeing, right? So we're going to give this a shot. This is not good. Nope. Well, good thing is we got a weak hit, which is great. Oh, plus we get to add one, but it doesn't make any difference at this point. It's not going to change the score any. 5, 6, so it's not going to make much difference. So we got a weak hit. I think we are going to. Do we want to mark progress? I mean, the easy way out would be to mark progress and say that we made it to our destination at this point. I'm going to. You know what? I'm farming for momentum right now. So we're on a high. I think we're on a high. So I'm going to keep farming that momentum. I'm going to take that +2, and we're doing really good right now because we burnt all that momentum and, you know, sucking just trying to get off the ship. So I'm going to take that. And I'd say this is where everything gets, you know, we're going to go. All right. So this is where everything gets filled in. This is the tension thing. So we've gone as far as we need to. We're, you know, at this point, I think it's two things are going to happen. One, we're going to see the Butterfeld on the sensors. We're going to, you know, James is doing his best to continue to act like he is fleeing, but we're still damaged, right? Like we're legitimately injured because we want to keep up the narrative that maybe we didn't, you know, we were doing the engine test, but maybe that didn't work. So maybe we're injured. Maybe we got, you know, maybe we're not fully powered. If they scan us with our sensors, if they scan us with their sensors, they might not see us completely powered up. And so James is going to gather some more information because at this point, I think it's at this point we hear, "This is the Butterfeld, identify yourself." And James says, this is the Wild Deliverance. We were being taken by the Colossus to, Kafatu for a conference, but they had a malfunction and they let us go out to head back to Neoma Station, which isn't wrong. Butterfeld responds, they said it was sabotage. Do you know anything about that? What is James going to say? We're in control right now because they don't know that we're doing anything wrong. I think we're gonna continue lying. Yeah, I think we want to continue some deception, right? So let us. Where is friggin'? Okay. I think we're gonna lie. I think we're gonna persuade someone that we had nothing to do with it. So we're gonna lie and we're gonna roll shadow. So this is where it's all gonna go to shit. I can guarantee it. Watch this. So James says, no, we were trying to fix our own ship. As you can tell, we're not 100%. Shadow. Shadow is 2. Okay, so we got a weak hit. So we got a weak hit. And we told them, hey, we're trying to make it back to Neoma Station. As you can see, we're not completely 100% either. The last thing we saw was and I guess, we could ask the question, we're trying to get back to Neoma Station. Are you headed to help out the Colossus? And so we lied. We have a weak hit. So as above, their agreement comes with a demand or a complication. Envision their counteroffer. Well, if they're on their way to fix the Colossus, or aid the Colossus, they'll probably ask us why we didn't stay and help. James is going to say, well, we're barely moving ourselves because James didn't turn on the other engine. We were damaged in the attack, which was why the Colossus was taking us to Jaffa, because we don't even have FTL right now. May or may not be true. Even James doesn't know that yet. If they even had FTL, I think they were just literally powering up the system. So, recharging the FTL batteries or anything like that may still not even be in the cards. So it's not a lie. It's just they don't know. James don't know. So Butterfeld says, understood, Wild Deliverance. We want you to make dock directly for Neoma Station. Yeah, because I think they're going to go ahead and help the Colossus. Why would they make us cut our engines or stop so that they can board us? Maybe they want to help, right? What if they did that? What if it was like, hey, we cut your engines. We want to help you. How close are we to the waypoint? I would say we're probably 30 away, 25 away. 25 away from the anomaly. We're still a good ways from Neoma Station. They're right on top of us, or like within 10. So I would say this is the last thing we need to do to get away. So James says, well, if you're going to go help the Colossus, why don't you go do that, and we will make port at Neoma Station, and we can all talk this out afterwards. And I think that's a charm. I think that's a charm roll, maybe on the view screen, things aren't looking so good in our place. You might see him turning on and off the interior lights. Maybe they're dimmed or something to make it look like maybe they're not 100% either. He might say, yeah, during the malfunction, my engineer got injured. He shows he's got a boo-boo on his arm too, from his fight with Petty Officer Jones. Make it look like maybe that happened during the malfunction. He might use that as a way of charming or pacifying the event. So I'm gonna say that, yes. So we're gonna use heart to compel. All right. Well, it's a weak hit. Damn, I'm going to need to burn some momentum for that to make it a weak hit. So we're going to burn a momentum. So Butterfeld says, let me check with, continue on to Neoma Station. I'm going to check with the Colossus. Hopefully by now everything's been fixed or they're on their way. Reduce your speed and we'll catch up with you when we get with the Colossus. So James says that's the complication. It would be, reduce your speed and we'll tow you both in when we'll wait here for the Colossus. We were just told that they were, yeah, that's what it is. Cut power and we will wait for the Colossus to get here and we'll all go in together. That's a good one. That's the complication. So they're all gonna, cut your power, cut your engines. We're gonna wait. We'll wait for the Colossus. Now, does James mutes the audio and he says, Slick, can you get up here? And Slick is on her way up. She says, hey, boss, what's up? And he made sure that the camera is still going. James says he's going to make some hand gestures. Acting like, he's saying, do this, we got, that kind of thing. But he's saying something else. He's like, I need you to put the power back on as soon as we can because I want to make a plan to get out of here as soon as possible. I don't want to wait for the Colossus because they want us to stop here and wait. And she's like, I think we can get full power, but I don't know if we have FTL or anything like that. That's going to take a while. And James says, well, I guess that's the best we're going to do, right? So, but I'll need both engines and we're going to do like hard burn, right? We're going to haul ass to the end point. And we're going to have to hope that whatever Zinnia got laid out for us, we won't have to do too much maneuvering or what have you. Zinnia also says, well, the closer you get to me, the faster you'll actually speed up because of the gravitational effects. So there will be some slingshotting effects that might actually cause two, which will potentially impair you. So speed, yes, but not so much speed, right? So James is like, you're just trying to make it harder on us, aren't you? So James untaps the mute button for all intents and purposes and says, understood. We don't have all of our thrusters, but there may be a bit of drift, but we'll cut power here. So James cuts power. And he's continue rolling through. And he mutes the system again. And he says, he covers his mouth and he says, Slake, I'm going to need that full power in about 10 seconds. And you hear her in the background go, got it, Chief. And James looks over his shoulder and he says, Dr. Ozric, you're going to want to strap in. He's like, Dr. Ozric, I'm imagining Dr. Ozric is like an old wizened guy, and he's like, I'm getting too old for this shit. Actually, I think he was younger. He was much younger, I think, if I described him correctly. So, we've made preparations. So I'm going to say speed. I'm going to say we're going to use edge, and it's going to be, is it aggression? I think we should, is it aggression maybe? Well, no, this is all about deception, trickery, and stuff, isn't it? So technically, we're tricking them into thinking that we're going to stick around here. So, okay, we're going to roll shadow. So we'll see what happens. Yes, look at that. That's so beautiful. All right, so we got strong hits. We're going to take 2 momentum back. That's fantastic. I love that. And we're going to get +1 on our next move. That's fantastic. Oh my God. Okay. So, so the way this I'm envisioning is, you know, obviously in space you got 3 dimensions, but the Butterfeld was, for all intents and purposes, coming towards us along the x-axis, because they were heading towards, you know, they were coming at us from this, you know, a direction, and they're facing in the opposite direction, right? They're waiting for the Colossus. You know, James is waiting for the burst of speed, and the course is laid in. So, you know, he's maneuvering himself to point directly towards where the end point of the anomaly is. So, you know, he's angling himself down. So Butterfield's in some kind of weird ass, you know, orientation to them. Because, you know, in Star Trek, they all met like this for some reason, you know. So, but in space, you know, in real space, they'd be, you know, upside down, or they'd be flipped upside down like this. So, you know, maybe they're in an orientation that's not friendly to this. Maybe they pulled up alongside, but, you know, maybe they're in this direction. Maybe we're in this direction, and we're just going to shoot off. That's in 3D. You got 3D, you know, got 3D, you know, glasses. So, the Wild Deliverance, you know, engines come on, you hear them, and then, you know, all of a sudden, James is thrown back into a seat as the burst from the Eidolon drive works, not the FTL. Eidolon drive is probably also the maneuver drive, or the non-FTL drive as well, or charges, you know, the engines. So they're going, right? And you hear the Butterfeld. I think you hear the Butterfeld, you know, in about 3 seconds say, "Deliverance, what are you doing? Cut your engines now." And I don't think James is going to respond. But so course is set. He's going to head this way. I think he's going to gather some information. I think he wants to find out if there's going to be pursuit, maybe where, you know, maybe if he can see the Colossus within sensor range. And it could very well be that the Colossus was in sensor range. So I think if we get a weak hit or a miss, it's going to be maybe not a miss, but if it was a very weak hit, then it will be like maybe they were in range, that kind of thing. Or a strong hit will be like, yeah, we saw them, they're definitely in range, they were in pursuit, or what have you. So, and this is wits, so that's a 2. Oh God. Okay, so it's a miss. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so information provides new insight. Wait a minute, was there a better option here? Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't. I'm gonna use gather information for now, but I always feel like, you know, a sensor is going to be something else. So, but anyway, all right. So perhaps, okay, so we're going to pay the price. I think the pay the price is going to be maybe that damage that we caused earlier during the fight is going to come back to bite us in the ass. Because we didn't actually know what happened there. You know, James hit that pipe. Maybe it was the coolant pipe for the engines. Maybe that's what happened. Make the most obvious negative outcome happen. Okay, so yeah, something's coming back to bite us in the ass. Maybe that coolant leak was a bad thing. Maybe under one engine, maybe it was fine. But maybe under 2 engines burning with max speed and max burn, that was not good. So, yeah, I'm going to say that. That's what we're going to do. So James is laid back in his seat, waiting, you know, with max power, and all of a sudden, all the lights come on. Whoop, 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 you know, all this kind of stuff. And you hear Slick over the comms go, "Oh shit! What? Oh my God! Okay, Captain, we're gonna have to stop the max burn. We're gonna have, you know, if we're gonna have to, you know, slow the fuck down because we're overheating the engines. They're gonna blow. Maybe that pipe you hit earlier, or the coolant leak, was not easily, you know, repaired as we thought. So James is forced to drop, you know, max speed. He says, "What do you suggest, Slick?" And she's like, I would go probably half speed if we can. And, so on a weak hit, what did we find out from the sensor logs though? So let's see, where is it? All right, so do we have a weak hit? No, we didn't have a weak hit. We had a miss, right? So yeah, dire threat. The gather information was that, you know, we actually have to pay the price, but during the sensor scan, and since, you know, what we were finding, we saw that the Colossus was in range of our sensors, which, you know, that's probably anywhere between, you know, 25 to 40 range or something. And I would say also to pay the price, damage the ship, but, you know, now that we're moving at half speed, they can more than catch up with us if we don't, you know, make it to the end there. So we haven't escaped yet. I think we're going to hold on to that one because I like being able to fill that in. So what I'm going to say is we need to make 4 piloting rolls or have 2 strong hits. 2 strong hits or 4 weak hits to be able to escape before we go. So we've got about, what, 25? So I would say for us to make it to our endpoint without any problems, you know, like the first 2 are going to be evading and getting away from the Colossus. So, and then the final 2 are going to be navigating whatever hazards were in the debris field to get to Zinnia. All right, so we have done all of these things. So now the new hotness is 4A. Pilot, evade the Colossus and Butterfeld. 4B, navigate the debris field. And that will help us to successfully escape to Zinnia, right? That would be 4C, land on Zinnia, land at Zinnia. All right. So, all right. So we're going to need to. Is anyone here? All right. So. Face danger, I think, is what we're going to be doing. I think we're going to be doing agility. I think at some point we'll be able to use some stealth or trickery. Stealth, you know, as we get closer into the debris field, we may be able to use our shadow. We may be able to do that. So I'm going to say we're going to start with speed, as much speed as we can muster, and agility. So our first roll is not good. Dire turn of events. Pay the price. Oh, God. See, we were doing so well. We're doing so well. All right, let's give it a roll and see what comes up. If it's a 62 again, I'm going to be pissed, because every time we roll these things, it always comes up bad. Okay, that's double bad. All right, that's a 97. All right, so we're going to roll twice. 44. Environment and terrain, new hazard. Okay, so that makes sense. There's going to be a giant ass rock, or there's going to be some space dust, or there's going to be some of that. So we have a 79 as well. You are harmed. Okay. All right, so we're going to pay the price. So we're going to say that the piloting has gone as well as it can be with 50% speed. We see, the sensor rolls, the sensor echoes are showing both the Butterfeld and the Colossus. The Colossus is still moving faster than the Wild Deliverance. The Butterfeld is in pursuit as well. It definitely looks like the Colossus has fixed what was going on, or has at least addressed some of the issues so they could get underway and make pursuit of the Wild Deliverance. James is so worried about seeing what's going on behind him that before he can react and before the collision alarm happens, something hits the ship. It's a piece of debris, it's a rock or something. Maybe one of them, maybe all of the systems are not working because of what happened earlier with the coolant leak or something. Maybe the coolant leak also causes the sensors to go offline, and or the collision avoidance detection or something like that. There's so many little pieces out there in the debris field that maybe something got through, right? This causes the Wild Deliverance to pitch in an odd direction, and James suffers a head injury, or maybe the navigational stick that he's using breaks. There we go. We'll call that what it broke. So primary navigational tools is busted. He's unable to use that one. So there's obviously multiple stations on the ship, multiple areas to, there's a backup navigation area. So, he's got to get out of the ship. So I would say in this case, but I would say in doing so, maybe trying to get to the backup navigation station, James gets hit by something that falls down, maybe a panel or something, and he takes a hit. So he's got one less health right now. Maybe he's got a bad patch on his head. It's bleeding, and so now he's got a boo-boo. That case like that. All right, so I would say James is like, God damn it. Oh, okay. Can somebody warn me the next time we get into the debris field? And Arlie's like, we may not be able to detect everything that happens coming from the debris field. We can see big things, but we can't see everything. That was about the size of, I don't know. Do toaster ovens exist in the force? So maybe this was about this size, and maybe we're not at 100% capacity on the ship, so maybe that thing got missed. She's like, the thing that hit, Arlie says, the thing that hit us was about the size of a basketball. Maybe they have basketball in the future. I don't know. He's like, well, do what you can to try to fix the collision avoidance system or what have you. We've still got to get out of here. So I would say that is a hit. I would say that is an okay, because we did take our hit there, but we did make it through that. I think we need to. I think we're still in control. I think we're still in control. So let's try a battle roll. I don't think we've ever done a battle roll. So I want to use some tactics to outsmart our foes. So maybe James realizes that maybe we can use some of this debris to our advantage. So James says, okay, if this is going to cause us as much issues, it's definitely going to cause the Colossus problems, because they're way bigger than us, and the Butterfeld, they're bigger than us. So let's use this to our advantage. Can you find us an area where there's some large debris? And Zinnia's like, I don't think you want to do that. Arlie quickly agrees and says, yeah, boss, let's not do that, James. That's not a good idea. And I think James says, yeah, I think we need to find something that we can use so that they will stop following us. Because if they continue to follow us, we're going to get caught. So I think James is going to roll some wits. No, wait, it would be, yeah, tactics. I think he's going to make a piling roll to go find something to hide behind. And maybe the next battle we'll be using edge to get to our speed or whatever. So yeah, let's go ahead and roll that. Okay, so we are using our wits, so that's an 8. That's a strong hit. All right, yes. Okay, so we're at max momentum right now. We're at max momentum because we've achieved our goal. So what happens is James, asks Arlie and them, hey, find me some debris that's in the area. Find me some larger pieces that maybe we can hide behind or duck behind, or so they will not follow us. And I would say that's 2. That's 2. Actually, you know what? I think that was only 2 because the miss that we had didn't actually count as anything because they were still pursuing us. All right, so James is able to find some larger debris that's in the accretion disk, because as we said, this was supposed to be a black hole. So in the accretion disk, there's going to be debris, from various sizes, from things as it's going into what appears to be a black hole, which we know is not. It's Zinnia in this case. And so I would say we now have the advantage. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue our way through. Maybe we're going to use the debris to kind of give us cover. Maybe, as it's making its way around the accretion disk, we're going to sit in its shadow so that it's our view is being blocked. The view of the Colossus and the Butterfeld is being blocked by the swirling of the accretion disk, and that I'd like to remind people from a science point of view, the accretion disk is somewhat warm. It's hot, actually, in plasma, so the temperature on the outside of the ship is increasing. It's not all fun and games. There is going to be, James and them hear the pattering of debris, hitting the ship, but it's not big enough to, be like micrometeorites or cause damage in that respect. You hear, or you don't hear, but Arlie might say sensors are indicating energy, energy eruptions from the Colossus. And he's like, turn on the view screen, see what we can see. And while we can't see them either because they're being blocked by whatever large debris is in the area, we do get fleeting glimpses of what looks like energy weapons are being fired at some of the larger pieces in the accretion disk to kind of ward off damaging their ships. And they've had to decrease speed as well. And Arlie says that. So James says this is probably a good time to maybe make a run for the final, to get to Zinnia. Zinnia, based on our current location, can you plot a course and maybe help out with that? I'd say we're going to flee. We're going to continue fleeing, which is an edge, which is not our best roll. Well, if worst comes to worst, I'll blow 10 momentum on this to make sure we make it where we need to get to, but I'm hoping that that's not going to be the case. Okay, so it was a weak hit. All right, it's a weak hit, and we were fleeing on edge, so that's 1, so 6. All right, so we have a weak hit. I say we're going to mark progress. I say we're going to mark progress, and we're going to make it to Zinnia. I'd say that's it for us. I'd say that is us escaping. So what happens is, with Zinnia's help, we plot a course that allows us to make it through the debris field to... It's weird because the last thing we hear is a garbled message from the Colossus saying, "What are you doing? You're going into a black hole. Are you crazy? You're trying to kill yourself." There's a lot of interference, and then I don't want to say we're gone, but it's obvious that they've broken off pursuit at this point because there's so much accretion disk matter because they can't follow as large as their ship is, and their sensors are being masked by that. They can't see what's going on. The accretion disk is too big. There's too much debris. Zinnia saw to that by manipulating gravity and increasing the gravity in the area. So we feel an increase in acceleration as we head towards what should be the event horizon and our deaths. But that doesn't happen. And I think that's where we're going to stop. That was a bit cagey for a second. I didn't know if we were actually going to make it through that. The dice rolls, the RN generator, RN Jesus was a bit more kind to us this gaming session, thankfully. And we successfully escaped our captivity on the Colossus. I'm not saying that we won't suffer any ill effects once we get away from Zinnia, so that will be something we may have to look at later. But our iron vow, or overarching goal in this case, not necessarily our iron vow, was to find Dr. Manon's killer, with which we have done that. We just need to get to Zinnia and figure out what to do next. And I think that's what we need to figure out. What's our motivation here, right? What is the reason that we are going there? Is that worth all of this pain, right? So hope you've enjoyed. I know that I'm actually sweating a little bit, not because of the heat here in San Diego, but because I was actually kind of worried that we weren't going to make it, especially with the price that we had to do there. So, but yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the follows. Thanks for the attention. Appreciate everyone's help there. And tell your friends, and hope you've enjoyed. And I will talk to you next time as we figure out what Zinnia is all about and what their motivations are and what we can, what's going to happen there. I think I would love if anybody is interested, you can go check out our Reddit. If you have suggestions on what's going to happen to Zinnia, please come in and join us. You can come and check us out right here on our Reddit. There's not a lot of people on there right now. I'm hoping to use that instead of, say, a Discord or Twitter or something like that. I've been using that and spending a lot of time on Twitter, on Reddit. And so, yeah, come and join and give us some feedback on how everything is so far. And, if you haven't liked it, I appreciate you continuing to watch, but, let me know what we can do to help make it a little better. And, yeah, give me some thoughts on what you think Zinnia should, what's motivating Zinnia, right? And yeah, come join us. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Bye, y'all.